Yeah, to anyone who wants them. So, Maria is a colleague of mine, and she knows how much I love public speaking. So she asked me to come and talk to you all today about what we do as a business account manager for Creative Workforce Solutions, which is an initiative of the Agency of Human Services. So I'm sorry, I'm so nervous to talk to you guys.
We're your friends. We're your friends. We're nice. We don't fight.
So,
And if you want to get, if it makes you more comfortable to come closer and like be amongst us, you don't have to do it.
Yeah.
that would be great.
Here or there, wherever.
So, Creative Workforce Solutions, some of you know, like Mike and Mary, what Creative Workforce Solutions is. But what we do is we represent a broad coalition of employee programs, employer programs, and we all work together to increase employment opportunities for Vermonters. That's our job. So there's 12 people in the state of Vermont that do the same job that I do in different regions. So, and I've been doing this for probably 6 months, 8 months. Before that, I was an employment consultant, so I worked actually with the consumers who were coming into the office looking for work. So now I go to the employers and talk to them about what their needs are. And then I meet twice a month with all of the job developers in the Bennington County to try to find a good match for all the jobs that we have. So everybody knows that there's really not a lot of people right now looking for work. Yesterday I was at a meeting where they said the unemployment rate in Vermont is 2.1%, which is like having everyone already working. So it's kind of a different job than it was when I first came into this work. So what we do is we just try to keep the communication open, keep the needs and leads. We have a CWS meeting twice a month, and we just sit down and talk about what are the needs in Bennington County. We offer a no-risk option to employers. So we start a lot with an informational interview. So we bring somebody to your office. They can ask any questions that they have. You can ask them any questions that you may have about them. And then they just, if you like them or you think it might work, then we do a job shadow so that they can see if maybe that's something that they would be good at. That can lead to a work experience where they can be paid a training offset from the state of Vermont to go to your business 25 hours a week, and we cover the insurance, the liability. So that we're like, we can be 5 weeks in, and then we can go into an OJT, and you already know that they're gonna work out, and then we pay up to half of their training cost to finish that training. So there's really a lot of options for employers, and that way the employee is comfortable with something new, because a lot of times they're changing what they're doing, or they've been incarcerated and we have to help them because they can't stay out of jail if they don't get a job, right? So we have to help them do that. A lot of good ways to do that is to use these tools, this progressive employment model, so that the employer doesn't have a risk, is not taking any risk. I also work really close with the GCEPD, the Governor's Committee on the Employment of People with Disabilities. That's why we say GCEPD. We award someone a business every year in each region, and they look at your recruitment, the way that you recruit people, equal accessibility during the application, the interviewing, You know, sometimes they require an interpreter, sometimes they require to do it Skype or something like that, so it's how you do that. And then accommodations, so a lot of people need to sit and stand at will. Some jobs this works for and some it doesn't, but
There's only one.
some people require interpreters on the job. So we have a lot of different people that we work with that require accommodations. Sometimes it's just letting them maybe go meet the parole officer so they don't get in trouble. So being a little bit more flexible with those folks. And then the accessibility, the physical structure being accessible for these folks. So this year it was the Bennington Coalition for the Homeless. We have been training a lot of our folks through it's like volunteerism, right? And the coalition needs help. They need people there to support their people who are staying there. So we've been working really closely with them. So what's happened though, when I first went to them a few years ago, they didn't have any funding. And then they found funding to hire on this one young lady who needed the accommodation of, I'm a really anxious person, I don't know if I can do this, and we had to take things really, really slow. And now she has a part-time job with them and is, you know, earning money, and she's not, you know, getting money from the state to live. She's not getting food stamps anymore. Like, we're helping get people off of these, we want to give them a hand up, not a handout sort of thing. So we're helping them do that. So I love working with them. I'm sure you all know about VR because Maria, I'm sure, has told you about Voc Rehab. Voc Rehab has many partners, and VABIR, she already said what VABIR means, but
It's been a while.
okay, Vermont Association of Business Industry and Rehabilitation. So they work closely with us. We work in the same building as Vermont Department of Labor. So we all kind of work as a team, but we have Reach Up upstairs, and we team with them sometimes for some of their consumers. You know, we just, one big happy family there, you know, if you're working with someone and so is someone else, you don't want to duplicate services, so you just have a team meeting and you say, okay, the next step is, I'm gonna do this piece, you're gonna do this piece, and then they ask me to go visit a business or to kind of look and see what's out there for this particular person. And then we find a good fit for them. I feel like there's more businesses calling me on the phone saying, I need help, than I am getting people at this time saying, I need a job. So it does make it hard. Transportation, we're dealing with that every day. We actually have on December 2nd, we're doing a summit for transportation in southern Vermont. It's very tough. Brian Maroney is actually helping with that. You know, the housing. We had a big discussion about housing yesterday. So there are a lot of issues, and we're trying to deal with all of these issues. Mostly, I deal with making sure they have employment so they can afford a car, a house, an apartment, something, right? So it's really hard to do all those things without a job. So that's my job. I do serve on some committees right now. The Workforce and Ed Committee is a wonderful committee. We meet once a month. We talk about many issues. We do focus a lot on students. So there's a lot of companies out there that are really telling us, you know, bring us students. We want to like have them job shadow after work or do a work experience and see how they're going to do, so that they want to go into that field, or figure out that they don't want that and then put them in something else. But we are trying to get seniors into jobs. I'm also a new member of the opioid response team, and so of course employment is very important in that situation also. And that's kind of all I
So
Ah.
usually we open up for questions now. Does
Sure.
anybody have
Of course you,
Well, I mean,
you know me
actually,
so well.
two comments, actually, because I think more than question, two comments. First, in my time with Bayada, and of course, Bayada being a home healthcare agency, we weren't eligible for all of the folks that were, receiving these services. We couldn't hire people on probation.
Of
with
course.
that. But I would say that, first of all, we definitely had some successful long-term employees that came through Creative Workforce Solutions and Wendy, and I think it's always worth mentioning just because they didn't all work out, but we did absolutely have some long-time employees that came through that program, and it's always great to see the success. And the second thing I'd point out, what I appreciated, is I always felt like there was a sense of balance working with you and with the rest of the team, just because when I'd been to Rhode Island, there were some similar programs that would bring us folks, and when they didn't work out, it was always this sense of, well, why didn't it work out? Why couldn't you make this work? And it always felt like there was a real good balance between you advocating for folks that you were trying to find employment for, but also understanding the employer's needs and that folks had to be a good fit.
Right, that, it's a dual customer model. We, of course, the employment consultant, and when I was in that world, we were very focused on making sure that they were gonna be okay. But even the employment consultants now are understanding that businesses, some of them just can't do certain things. But we never bring those people to, like you were saying, if they're coming from Department of Corrections, we know not to bring them to Mike at Bayada when he was there. I miss you, by the way. But we know not to do that. We know where we can go and where we can't. We don't. So a big thing right now is drug testing and having marijuana be legal to grow, at your home. So if you have to be drug tested and you do that, we're not gonna send you, we ask all those questions before they even get to you. So that's been really a good thing for employers. And my husband owns the Dutchman's Tavern now, so he's asking me for cooks and yada, yada, yada. And was that a plug? I'm sorry.
We had our social there last month, and we
Oh.
loved it.
Great.
I had lunch there on Wednesday.
Wonderful. Oh, see, I know. But he does call me and does, I'm trying to sleep at night and he's going, oh, by the way, could you, so yeah, it's a tough time.
Do you find like a mismatch between what employers need and the skill set? that's
Absolutely.
available? And what is that?
So what is wonderful about where we're located is that we have access to the WIOA program through the Department of Labor.
Tell us what that is, we have no
WIOA,
idea.
oh goodness, work opportunity,
What's it do?
Nobody will know the difference.
anyway,
Yeah.
I can't even, opportunity actors. So it is to, so what they do, so I have somebody on my caseload who needs training. They will actually help them that is based on your income, annual income. But they make it so that they can help you get into training programs. You can get certified in, they have a nursing, LNA program right now that they will run. They work closely with the CDC. They do some online stuff too, I'm sure. The vet tech program, things like that. So say there's somebody who just doesn't make enough money to pay for school, then they're gonna help you get through all of that red tape. Like VSAC is actually, she comes to our office once a week and helps people get into, get a grant for school. There's so many ways to help these folks. And we actually work really closely with the CDC. Rob Bainey is in our office all the time. Bonnie? I don't know how to say his last name. Bainey? So he comes to our office, he tells us what programs they have for adults for night school, and we're able to put people into those programs. So, say somebody needs a surf safe, we do some of that online, and some of that you actually can go to these courses. It's one day, it's 8 hours of your day, and you can get certified in that. So if there's something that you really want to do and you don't have the training, we can guide you to get that training. Yes.
Do potential employees have to be referred to you, or if you, how would they find you?
So there are a lot of ways. So I work a lot with Voc Rehab. So to get into Voc Rehab, you have to have some barrier to employment. And that can be substance abuse, that can be mental illness, that can be depression. Yeah, anything that's written down, anything the doctor can, give to us that says, hey,
So would they
you have
start
this.
at both?
So you start at Voc Rehab. There's orientation every other week, on Tuesdays at 11, and so once you get into that program, if you are a young mother with children and you're doing the Sunrise program, they are part of Creative Workforce Solutions. Reach up upstairs, ESD. There are so many ways, as long as they are in the CWS team, so any job developer. So even if you go to Department of Labor to get a job, we have at least 2 members at CWS every time we have a meeting. So there's so many ways to get into this program. Yeah, and we found it very successful, this progressive employment model. It works very well.
So from the employer's perspective, you said you get a lot of calls. I don't know, is there a process that you go through to identify the specific requirements or needs? And the reason I ask is, we've been going through a bidding process with Breadloaf as a construction management firm for a UCS edition. And they're just not getting bids because they can't find the workers to do the work.
Yeah.
And they said the same thing about Putnam Block, like they're bringing new people on and training them on the spot constantly. So
Yes.
that's a huge,
Yeah, I have some people on caseloads that are working for Breadloaf who
Great.
don't have a lot of experience. So they go in making like the lowest, entry level stuff. But if they just are motivated and go there every day and do their job and, then they can move up rather quickly in that company. So we are trying to get people who are interested in construction. But building trades, that's a really tough, the kids don't want to do that anymore. I don't know why, but they don't, they're just not interested.
Yeah, we had a situation where we hired a young apprentice through a government agency. We tried to train him, and he was incorrigible. He'd never show up. The foremans didn't want him on their job. He didn't follow safety procedures. He would play with his video games during classroom training, and he was just incorrigible, all right? So
Incorrigible.
yeah, that too.
Incorrigible.
So anyhow, we terminated his position with our company, and then he went to unemployment and gave them a story that we laid him off, which wasn't the case. And then we had to have a hearing and everything else, and the Labor Department sided with him, even though he didn't show up for the hearing.
Wow.
So that kind of gives us a bad taste in our mouth to
So-
want to involve ourselves in something like that.
I'm so glad that you said that, because I forgot to tell, the most important thing is follow-up. So when we send somebody, how many times did I come to your office when I had somebody there doing a work experience? I mean, I was bugging you every week, I just wanted to check on her, I just wanted to see how she was doing. I wanted to know if something was wrong. A funny, not so funny story. I owned Oma's Cafe Express before I went into human services. And Brian Maroney would bring me, different people to try to build their skills so that they could get a job. I couldn't afford to pay anybody at that time. And so I had this young lady working for me, and my daughters worked for me also. At lunchtime, it was so busy, bless you. And so they kept saying they smelled something funny when she came out of the bathroom. So I was like, So then a customer tells me, this young lady is smoking marijuana in my bathroom. Well, I didn't know what to do, so I called Brian, who is the one that brought me this young lady. He was at, now, mind you, it was across the street from the state building, the cafe, but he was there in like 2 seconds. He took her off premises, told her why she had to leave, sent her back to talk to her counselor or whatever, and I said, I will not do this again. But you know what? I did try it again, and I had an awesome lady who came in, and she was there every day, and she did, and until she stayed with me until she got a job at Home Depot. So the great news about working with Creative Workforce is that we are there. We're checking on things. We're doing our follow-up. If something happened like that, but you were working with me, I would have been there long before you had to fire this young man. So just remember that, when we call it, that's a big part of our job is that follow-up. That's what makes people successful. Yeah.
You mentioned that the current unemployment rate in state is a little over 2%.
Mm-hmm.
So that, just rough math, that works out to maybe 9,000 or 10,000 people in the state that might be unemployed at this particular point in time. What fraction of those people would you consider to be unemployable?
Well, you're talking to someone who is an optimist and says that there is a job for everyone.
Well, what about those
but I
people
don't-
like Jerry mentions who simply, maybe they have the skill set, maybe they could be trained, maybe they could hold a job, there's no physical impediment to them holding a job, but they simply just won't work. Or,
Right on.
yeah.
Well, so we do have, we have times, the Agency of Human Services just in July gave us back our job coaches in the state. So now we have someone who is tasked with things like that. So she does tutoring and she does some other things also. But I can tell you, she spent the first month of a young man's job at the Buck Stop, she was with him all the time. And just, I don't know if he just had short-term memory issues. I don't think he was playing on his phone or anything. I think it was like some memory issues. So she stayed with him until he got, would go in and do his job without, she could just kind of stand back and watch. And her job was just to make sure that he did what he was being paid to do. So I think, there might be something like that can be done. Things that some kids just don't understand what they need to do, what they should be doing. If somebody, it's like having your mom there, I'm sure Melissa, our job coach, is like, put your phone away, but doing it discreetly, but hello, you're at work, put your phone away. Somebody that can be there kind of to guide you through all of this. Young people, we're talking about having a soft skills training because, and it for young and old, but because there's so many skills that we take for granted, we have them, but
Don't
some
exist.
people don't. Some people just don't, and the way you're brought up and all of that matters.
The thing with the phone, even if they have skills and they do a good job, they're still on the phone all the time. It's their right, they feel it's their right to have a phone. And there's no way, I've tried to take the phone, like every 5 minutes, and the guy's doing his job, but he's on the phone all the time. I mean, it's just something that's their right, how could you, no, I can't live without my phone. And what do you do with that?
Take it away, and when they leave work, give it back to them.
No, they won't take the job.
Then they
It's part
fire
of,
them.
their
Fire
rights.
them.
Their right as a
Yeah.
citizen of America to have that phone. And I think a lot of us are guilty of that, If we have a higher position,
It's not just employees, I was gonna say, it's
Right.
the
We
whole
all have
scene.
that.
I've sat in meetings where it's
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
why isn't half the table staring at their lap right now, yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
yeah,
And it's-
excuse
Victor,
me.
your phone does go off sometimes in our meetings.
But it is, it is rude, and it's, when people are sitting in a meeting and like,
Yeah, but we didn't have the phone 50 years ago, it wasn't
I know.
there.
I know.
The phone was ringing at home and you have to go home to get the message, you stayed at work. But now
Yeah.
it's with us all the time, it's a whole new.
You're too old, Victor, retire.
Victor, it does not have to be.
Right.
I am an owner of a business, I have a lot of employees, they all have their cell phones. I do not have a cell phone, and I never want a cell phone because it occupies too much of my time.
Yeah.
Tell your employees that, and take their phone when they
I
walk in the
know.
door, give it back to them when they
So
leave.
part of the job interview is that if they have a phone, they can't have the job.
Okay.
Oh,
They don't
Carol
give it
has
up.
a job
They have
back.
to have the phone.
All right, we're gonna go up.
Phones are a bigger problem than Wendy.
Carol has a question back there.
Well, just a comment that my daughter's a middle school teacher. And they finally got together and said they take the phones at the beginning of the class and they have a shoe rack that they put them in. And she said this year has made 100% difference in the classroom. We've got to learn to deal with this phone thing. And everybody's upset here, you need to be upset with the person who does it. Social pressure will do it.
yeah.
But
it's
in
tough.
case school is dictatorial, so they can do that.
There is never a situation where you absolutely need a cell phone.
So, I have another
Even if
question.
you drive off a cliff in the middle of the night.
I have another question.
Yes.
What's the age breakup of the clients that you serve? I mean, is there a majority that are younger folks out of school? Do you see more people who didn't graduate? What's the
Ooh.
kind of demographic? Because when, it speaks to me when you said, we take those skills for granted, right?
Yeah.
Just, and if you had a parent who was disabled, or you had a parent who was on assistance, and you never saw what that routine looks like, you never watched someone get ready to go to work in the morning,
Exactly.
or you didn't spend time in a work environment, where would you get those skills, right?
Right. So we're talking a lot about mentorship. So taking folks like you who worked hard your whole lives and just like the big brothers, big sisters, sort of thought. Bring those younger folks in and show them because we talked about it yesterday at the summit, workforce summit, that does happen where the kids grew up in poverty and they just keep dragging it on,
They
and
don't
it's
know
just
what
going.
success looks like.
Right. So we need those people to work though.
Yes.
We need them now to work. And so how do you teach them that? So we're talking about having some trainings, about getting mentors for these folks. When you ask them, the first thing I ask when somebody comes to my office that wants a job, I ask them, what is your dream job? What do you consider your dream job? And I deal with anywhere from 16, I spoke to 174 15-year-olds on Monday. So like when I ask them what their dream job is, they don't know. So then we start assessments and try to figure out what their interests are. So if it's something really big, like I want to be an astronaut, And then you break that down to, why do you wanna do that? And we just keep delving deeper into this person's wants and what their passion would be. You know, we want them to be passionate that's gonna make them want to do their job. That's gonna make them want to go to work. It's, you know, I actually have, you know, dealing a lot with people over 55 that are trying to get a job now.
Like
So-
a retirement job or just the,
Yeah, or they just don't, they wanna get off SSDI or whatever they're on, you know? They don't wanna sit home all day. So it's everything, but we have different employment consultants depending on your age group. So, you know, it's in-school youth, out-of-school youth, and then when you turn 24, you get put into the young adults, and then you go into, you know, and then we have mature workers. A lot going on.
If a business closes, is your organization right there to help those displaced people?
Usually it's Department of Labor,
Okay.
and then if they have barriers to employment, then they come to VR. So I guess I wear so many hats. So the creative workforce, yes, they do get put into that mix of people that are available to work. The VR side that the people who pay me, yeah, so they have to go through orientation. But yes, the Department of Labor is always right there when a place closes. Yes?
Would an apprenticeship program work with the trades that was
Yes.
separate from businesses? And is there such a place?
You have to do an apprenticeship, you have to be on someone's books. You have to have a commitment from a business before you can start an apprenticeship.
No, but I'm talking about construction or plumbing, heating. Is there any other place besides working for a company where someone who, because an apprentice needs a mentor, needs a master,
Mm-hmm,
and that's,
right, they do.
and they may need, you know, originally apprentices weren't paid, or when they got done, they got paid, they were taken
Yeah,
care of.
they
until
were-
they're- But there
they were
isn't
doing
any
an
formal
internship.
program like that.
Right, they were doing an internship.
No, they did it for 7 years, that's not an internship.
That's not
I mean,
Well,
I'm
so
talking about
historically-
150 years ago.
Oh, okay,
The
yeah, so
traditional
it's
apprenticeship
changed a
does
lot,
not
it
exist
has
now.
changed a
I
lot.
mean, there isn't a year's apprenticeship in plumbing or heating.
Oh, no, of course
Yeah.
not, I mean, they have to go to
Why
school,
not?
they have to,
Yeah.
yeah, I mean, they have to work and go to school, and, I mean, it's a commitment from the company and from the apprentice. You have to be committed to that, to doing that work.
There's something the governor just did.
No, I think that maybe the setup is screwy. Go ahead.
Well, do you work cooperatively with the schools, for example? I mean, I'm thinking about the Career Development Center or other
Yeah.
ways in which you can be working, sort of coordinating what they're doing in terms of educating the young people and what you're doing, which is getting them jobs. I mean, is there any of that crossover between?
Yeah, do you know Wendy Callaert?
Yeah.
Okay, so Wendy and I spent all summer going to places like Orvis. We had interns at Orvis, we had interns at GSK, we had interns, so all these different places we would go and we would do, like evaluations of how things were going. And her and I would just take the day once a week and travel, all around Dorset, Manchester, Bennington, and talk to the kids and talk to the employer about how things were going. But they were unpaid internships, and we were trying to find out if that they were sure that's what they wanted to do. So then they gave a presentation at the end of the summer. Yeah, it was great.
Are there statistics of what percentage of these people find their way back into society?
I don't have I wish I did.
What do you, what's your estimate, what do you think? Half?
So the success rate of people, that we serve in the creative workforce solutions, like progressive employment, very successful. Progressive employment is very successful. So I would say maybe in Bennington County, and I call them all successful because people who didn't even end up getting a job after they started this progressive employment, a lot of people figured out that wasn't the kind of work that was for them. So I think they were pretty much all successful, but I would say 50% of them stayed in that job for a year or longer.
And
or
what
still
about the
did.
50 that didn't make it? What are they doing?
What do they
Are
do?
they on
We had to,
SSI or
well,
Section 8 or?
some of them still are. Some of them still are. We're
Yeah.
working every day to fix it.
I watched this program on the right to fail, and what do we do with these people? You know, there's just people that just don't want to, and there's a lot of them. And do we take care of them? They feel they have the right to fail, and do we have the obligation to take care of them?
Yes.
It's a big
Wait,
philosophical questions you're posing to us, Victor. Thank you. We have time for one more question.
Yeah, this is a comment, I guess, to Jane's question. Our company has an apprenticeship program. We have pay scales as they go up.
Yep.
We have 40 hour, 1 hour a week for 40 weeks of in-house training. The in-house training is provided by a program developed by the Refrigeration Service Engineer Society. The state of Vermont will not recognize it. We'll hire them if we can train them, but they
You
don't.
could train them better.
Yes, if I can train them,
Yeah.
but we can't get our program certified by the state, so therefore it doesn't exist.
So you've, I'm assuming, talked to,
I've talked and wrote and
I'm gonna do a
to
little
Mary.
talking. I need to get a little information about that so I can talk to Becky Dansero a little bit about that.
Oh, yeah,
Thank you
she's-
so much.
Thanks.